All right, so we're reconvening at
Good night, Ed.
9:05 p.m. And
What? 5?
I have a bunch of grumpy budget committee members who want to go home, but I'm going to make a proposal to them to consider before we do that, which is on I know there's a lot of warrant articles that will have significant discussion and they warrant that, but I also believe that there are some that we can act on in a span of 10 minutes and get home. I went to Northampton's budget hearing, and they acted on all the warrant articles in a half an hour. They didn't have as significant issues as some of ours, but the ones that had been vetted and understood got voted on in a matter of a couple minutes. So if the committee is willing, what I would suggest we consider is on the town warrant article side, and I'm not going to even get into the school ones, because there's a lot of them there that I think might have some discussion. But on the town side, I think I would be appreciative if the committee would consider proceeding on some of the warrant articles following the water and sewer bonds. Like the change in purpose of the capital reserve fund for fire, the change in purpose of the health insurance capital reserve fund. I think the police union contract had very little or no discussion on our level, which means to me that there's not a lot of concern about it. The parking special revenue fund as well falls into that, and then the fire station public works facility project building fund, which is basically a bookkeeping entry. I'm not saying make a motion on all of them,
I'll
but
second that motion.
if we're willing to entertain those and proceed on those, then we'll have gotten a bunch of work done, at least in terms of length, and we can focus at the next meeting on the operating budgets, the 2 different bonds, and the school warrant articles. Does the committee feel comfortable, or if there's strong?
Can you, Brian, can you just go through, just real, I know you mentioned a couple.
Oh, yeah,
just which ones exactly do you want to vote
If
on?
you start at the first page, we skip that page, because that's the McIntosh well and the sewer plant.
Yeah.
The first one would be the approval of the collective bargaining agreement with the New England Police Benevolent Association Local 215.
Can you just go through all of them, which ones?
I would also.
All of them except those two?
Basically, all the ones that follow were the ones in my mind did not have a lot of discussion or concerns expressed by the committee. We had some feedback tonight, but not sure it was significant enough to warrant. If someone wants to table one of them, that's fine.
I'll go with the committee's suggestions.
Why don't we start with one, and then if we run afoul, or if someone wants to table one of them, then we'll do that. Okay. I know I made this commitment before. Mr. Fitzgibbon is aware of this meeting. Not sure Mr. Lennon's going to be able to be back for the January 22nd meeting. And, but I'm going to allow for that opportunity and make sure the ones that I think there would be discussion from either one of them to be here. And that's those articles that we're avoiding.
Brian,
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, that's what Roseanne was just asking, if that's next, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
That's okay, you can go and she'll
I'll make a
second it.
motion to approve to recommend the approval of the collective bargaining agreement with the New England Police Benevolent Association, Local 215, as presented.
Second.
So Linda and Roseanne.
So we voted to do this tonight?
So
Did I miss that part?
just to clarify, what I had expressed at the previous meetings was that there would be a possibility tonight we would act on
Yes,
some of
I
them.
understood that. I just wasn't sure that we had all agreed to
These
do
seem,
that tonight.
I agree with Brian, let's see if there's a roadblock as we go through.
Okay, sorry, I missed that part.
And if
I
someone
was
feels
waiting for a
strongly
motion
about it,
to
or-
keep going.
Well, I was looking for objections, and seeing that, I was like, okay, consensus is going. So we got a motion on the floor. Would anyone like to discuss this warrant article, or the motion to recommend the police unions, in short, the police unions collective bargaining agreement? Okay, seeing none, I'll call, let's just do voice vote, and if we have to, we'll make sure we get the yeas and nays. All those in favor of the motion to recommend article on the police union contract, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so it's unanimous.
Which one was it?
Everybody's in support. I can skip that word.
9-zip.
9-0.
Yes, thank you.
Is that what it is 9?
9-0, yeah, we're missing 2 members. Okay, the next article is rescinding the parking special revenue fund. We did receive one comment, I think, from the public about this. That was a contrarian comment in regards to the proposal here.
So moved.
So moved, go ahead, to recommend.
To recommend rescinding the parking special revenue fund.
Roseanne makes the motion, is there a second?
Second?
Is that Amy?
Second?
Ooh, any discussion?
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add is, there was some discussion tonight related to how expensive a parking garage is and the fact that we don't have any real location. The other thing I would add to that is, there really isn't, land is no cheaper. So even if we were gonna try and buy a small lot somewhere, $100,000, unfortunately, in our current market, doesn't buy us very much in anywhere in town that would help facilitate parking. So my recommendation for people in general
And a shuttle bus, Russ, that's great.
is, if you can, walk.
Yeah.
So, just really quickly, I think that Mr. Madej should understand that I don't think this is an indication that parking's not a problem downtown.
Right.
As someone who's been involved with the downtown effort since I bought a property about 10 years ago, it's pretty amazing how busy it is at times when it hasn't been like 5 years ago, and I think we should be proud of the downtown, and I'm hoping that we will have the ability to address that, but I think it's going to have to be in a separate vehicle. And there was extensive work done. I mean, we looked at the post office as a reconstructed post office with a garage behind it, and a lot of different ideas about 6 years ago when we felt like we had a lot of money. Any other comments, or all those in favor of the motion to recommend rescinding the parking special revenue fund, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 9-0. Correcting the deficit in the fire station public works facility building project fund. This is the article that would essentially wipe the issue off the books without costing us any money.
Make a motion to approve this?
Which, this is,
Correcting.
didn't we,
Yeah, they don't have.
I don't think I skipped one. They're not numbered, so I kind of get lost a little
Correcting a
bit. But it's the
deficit.
first one on the third page of that document.
gotcha.
So Ellen made a motion, I believe,
Second.
and Amy seconded it. Any discussion? I just hope this is the last
Second with
time.
Russ.
I just hope this is the last time we ever have to discuss this as a community, because
Right.
I just
I
hope
think
people
that's the
support
point.
this and we get it off the books, because it's always,
Huge
it's always an
housekeeping.
issue with respect to the auditors showing a deficit. It's
and it's confusing.
irritating.
And the
We have to
money's there.
set money aside to deal with it and then wash it out, and it's a pain.
Yeah.
It needs, if it could go away, I think it would benefit the town greatly. And there is no cost or benefit, negative to doing it.
Well said.
All those in favor of the recommendation for the correcting the deficit in the fire station public works facility building project fund?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous, 9-0. Okay, change in the purpose of the fire capital reserve fund, and this one would expand the fire capital reserve fund that was created in 1961 to include ambulance equipment as well as fire equipment and
So
vehicles.
motioned.
Russ?
Second?
Drew?
Can I make a comment on this?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yeah. I'm in favor of this because one of the things it will do, as you notice, in the town budget right now, there is money for radios for the fire department, and this would take it out of the town budget and put it into the capital fund.
Do we need to make a motion to do that?
No, this would do that.
It would allow future purchases of the radios to
Of
be from
future
this fund.
But it would leave it
This
in
will
the-
affect the.
For this
operation.
year, but in the future. In the future, it would allow us to do that.
Thank you. Didn't see you.
Gotcha.
Right.
Any other comments? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Change in the purpose of the health insurance capital reserve fund. Where are my glasses? That would explain.
Yeah.
This would change the purpose of the fund to allow the use of the funds for the purpose of stabilizing the health benefit increases for employees. Basically helping offset larger increases than anticipated in future years from balances of the current years.
I'll make a motion to recommend the change in purpose of health insurance capital reserve fund as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I think so.
Okay, Amy?
Steve, I'm not sure that I kind of get the point, but right now, as in current years, we have still had to budget to the guaranteed maximum.
Correct.
And then when so let's say the guaranteed maximum for the whole town is, pick a number, 200,000.
Correct.
I know. And when the rates are set, it comes in at 150,000.
Correct.
What happens to that 50,000?
So in the following year, the council, the town administrator and the council could budget $50,000 withdrawal from fund balance, because that surplus would go into fund balance to be placed in this capital reserve fund. The following year, say you were assuming that the rates were going to come in at 2%, or it was going to bump up that $200,000 to 225, but instead it went up to 275. Well, now I got $50,000 to offset that increase that year.
Would this be every year? This is a one-time funding?
It is hopefully it will be a revolving, it'll be revolving. We'll be able to put money in year after year.
It should be as needed. correct?
Right, and it'd be as needed. I wouldn't recommend, if you have a slight increase, I wouldn't recommend you hitting this fund to offset the slight increases. I would recommend if you had a double-digit increase, to lessen that impact, to be a single-digit increase.
So
'Cause
instead
you-
of, so
But
instead
we're
of,
not fun-
well, I was just gonna say, in the future, instead of, but this year you budget the maximum, next year, the maximum is 30%. And, you know.
You can have some money to offset that by
Right.
going to this capital reserve
Or
fund.
you, but you wouldn't necessarily have to budget the maximum every year
No.
going forward if you
Right.
establish the fund.
Right, you can have other sources of revenue to
So
go
it's
to.
I see it as a way, if I understand correctly, that if you took the average of 20 years of health insurance increases, that's what you're striving to fund the increase at, so that you don't have spikes. Like, we don't like spikes.
Yeah, and I understand that, and again, I've gotten in trouble for it before. My concern is that when there are extra funds, how do we do enough to be prudent without feeling like as has happened in prior years, where there's these piggy banks around that, that don't come back to the tax rate payer, or are paying ourselves back for a building over the next 10 years and causing a housekeeping problem, or that somehow don't, and I know it sounds cynical, but that don't give whoever's in charge no incentive to get the best rates possible, i.e., you very nicely found a health insurance savings that we were overcharged, let's say, but I don't want to remove incentive to keep the costs down, and maybe this is
I think
more
the
of
first
a-
thing about the incentive side is, anybody in my seat should be doing that anyways. If they're not, they're probably not the right person for the job. You should
Well,
be
I
doing
think
it every
that- I
year.
think that's partly the case, but also knowing that that fund is out there. I mean, I'm a little leery of
But-
slush funds
Uh,
at this point,
Well,
while I
one, it's not a
understand the
slush fund.
purpose of it.
It's not a slush fund.
Well.
It is
okay,
it's a savings account, much like if
savings
you had a
account to
savings
balance the
account
costs.
because you were afraid of your oil, your home going
Right.
up. You
I-
put some money aside. Where, if you look at the healthcare rates and the cost, it is a spike, it is a peak and valley. It's not a curve for the town.
I mean, I certainly understand
So-
that. I want
what-
to stress that my concern, though, is that going forward, I think that we stay on this track of finding where we have been overcharged and that sort of stuff, and balancing as much as we can. That's not used to say, oh, well, our health insurance company just is charging us more because, are we still going to do the due diligence to make sure that we're getting the lowest rates?
And shame on whoever doesn't do the due diligence.
Okay.
Russ would like to speak to.
And first of all, this is just establishing the fund, it's not funding anything
Correct.
to it. I think, and if I understand, even if we establish it now with zero balance, which is what this is asking for, each year as part of the budget process, somebody's going to have to recommend and people are going to have to approve increasing the funding to that.
Correct.
So there should be some process governors in there. To Amy's last point, and I don't know if it can be addressed now or in the future, maybe there should be consideration, I doubt now because of the timing, but in the future, that puts either some percentage cap or something that says this fund shouldn't exceed more than 30 or 40% of the annual insurance premiums, and So any excess, if you hit that trigger, I don't know if that's possible.
I've done this in other communities. You come to find out, there usually isn't much of a balance, because you have those peaks and valleys. It doesn't happen. The other thing you'll find out by turning this money back in at the end and doing the auditing of the accounts to make sure we have actual numbers, we're actually going to be shrinking also the amount of money that we do give back to fund balance. So there may be years that there may be a difference in the healthcare line, but I wouldn't recommend to the council putting it into the account because our contribution to fund balance itself may be too low. Because we also have a fund balance policy that requires us to have certain levels. So it's a whole formula that you have to look at when you're doing it.
As long as you stay for the long haul, buddy, we're okay.
I've only got a 2-year contract.
Yes, Judy. Do our best.
I'm not sure Russ is correct. It says change the purpose, so there is an existing health insurance capital reserve fund.
There's $1,000 in it.
Yeah, okay. But
So
just
it's
think-
not-
There is a little bit.
It's not
I apologize. There
establishing-
is a small amount. What it was, at one point in time, they were setting it up to do deductibles.
And it's when we were self-insured.
Yeah.
This is, so it's a change of purpose fund, but it's not adding any new money to it.
Right.
Not this year.
Right.
That would be a line item potentially for
Correct.
next year.
Which answers my question of, don't you have to fund it with $1?
There's already money in it.
There's money in there.
Thanks.
It's a repurposing.
Okay.
Any more questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor of the recommendation on change in purpose of the health insurance capital reserve fund, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes unanimously.
Unanimously.
All right, last one. Creation of the town revaluation capital, last one for tonight. Creation of town revaluation capital reserve fund. This one, as Steve was indicating, if the budget committee decides, and we think this one makes sense, then we would take $40,000 out of the operating budget, because this is funding the same thing that's in the operating budget for the same purpose. And this would create a new town revaluation capital reserve fund to basically spread out the cost of the 5-year evaluation that we have to do in 2015. It would put in $40,000 of new money.
I make a motion, we support this warrant.
I'll second it.
Ellen and Judy? Yes, questions, comments? Roseanne?
We had been doing 20% each year, so we thought that we would be done, but it's a cyclical type of thing.
Right, you do the quarterly pickups, and that's what we're doing currently. And then the 5th year, you have to do what they call a statistical update.
Do we still have to do the quarterly? Can we eliminate that?
No, because if you didn't do that, then you'd have to do a complete, what they call a complete measuring list in the 5th
Okay.
year. And that's, they do what they do in the quarterlies all at once.
Okay.
And that's probably about 4 times the amount of what this would cost.
Okay.
It's,
Probably cause 4 times as much angst.
right, instead of, you basically have a group of people who descend on the town and go out and measure and list every house and knock on everybody's door, where now we do a quarter of the town a year, and in the 5th year, we do the statistical update, which they basically look at all the data over the last 5 years, update it, and that's the final one for the reval.
And the total cost for every 5 years would be approximately
I have to look at that because of the staffing.
around 80,000, because you're thinking of doing 40
Oh, yeah,
this year.
oh,
and
I'm sorry,
40
yes, for the statistical.
40 this year and 40
Right,
next year.
for
But you're-
statistical
Knocked
update.
down a lot from
Yeah,
the
but
Yeah,
but
it's-
you're seeing,
What is the quarterly one?
but you're seeing it, so you're seeing a large amount this time, only because we realized this is what we had to do, and we've got to get the money up in 2 years.
Right.
Whereas the 80,000 will be dispersed over a 5-year
I would
period in the
propose
future.
that, right.
Yes.
After the 5th year this time, I'd
Gotcha.
say, okay, put up,
Thank you.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
20
a
a year
year.
for
It
the
won't be
next.
40,000 a
Yep.
year all the time.
Good questions.
Would that have to be in a warrant article every year?
No, I believe after that, since we're creating the fund, after this, the council can put that as part of their operating budget, when they put contributions to capital reserves, and it'll be just part of the budget process.
So we would see it.
Yeah.
Could that be made clear in this? I just thought of it, because we all know that, it's 80 grand, give or take. Should it be made clear that this is, not something that's gonna be a constant year after year, so people don't think it's gonna be 40,000 we're gonna be putting away all the time? I'm just thinking,
Yeah,
because some people may construe it as,
The problem with amending the wording now is the council's already approved it.
okay, that's fine, when we were
But we were
talking.
discussing,
Liberal
yeah.
session.
Talking the other night about, like, italics or
Yep.
just a little.
Or
'cause
the town administrator comments.
Right.
You could
Do
expand
that.
those
Yeah.
to
Yep.
explain
I
this.
just real, because we all talked about it, I just realized
Yep.
that some people could consider it, would
It's going to be 40 every year, it's not.
I would
correct.
definitely try to clarify.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions or clarifying comments or opinions?
One little bit, do we make a motion tonight to reduce the operating budget by 40,000, or are we holding on that?
We're holding off on that.
I would suggest that be
That
written
comes
down
when we
as
do the-
Roseanne's first motion when we get to the operating budget discussion.
I wanna do it. Okay.
You can second it.
You're assigned a task, Roseanne.
We're going to draw straws.
Who gets the hand up first? That's what it'll come down to.
Okay.
Motion's
Any other comments or
Hit it,
questions?
Brian.
All those in favor of the creation of the town revaluation capital reserve fund, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Okay, thank you, everybody, for
And the charter is not one
listening
we
tonight.
vote
We're
on,
gonna,
Brian? The charter thing is not one we vote on because it's not financial? Okay.
Meeting minutes, Brian?
we can do the meeting minutes at our next meeting, because some people might not have gotten it today, unfortunately. Some of them got sent out today.
What time is the meeting's next Monday, correct?
January 22nd.
Tuesday at
Thursday, because
7.
MLK is on Monday.
So, my suggestion would be that when we get to the point of debating our positions, that we try to be terse and to the point and
Laconic.
and not,
Andy verbose?
yes. And, just not to stymie
Terse
the
and to
debate,
the
but
point.
just to recognize that we have a lot of work. There's a lot of things that will generate discussion. And if we spend a lot of time on something, it'll diminish our time on something else. And the later we stay, the more grumpy we all get, and the poorer the
Speak for
discussion
yourself.
becomes.
I make a motion, we start at 5 o'clock, so we have
Well,
time to
we're
be
starting at
grumpy.
7 because,
Terse and to the point is redundant.
I know, exactly. That's kind of the humor.
Motion to
So,
adjourn.
motion to adjourn, Gary, second.
Done.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for.